thought I'd go Disney because, we're talking about some, heavier stuff this morning. And the truth is, it's not from where I sit anymore, now that I've spent the last several weeks really, really looking at this idea of darkness and shadow work and all of this stuff. It doesn't have to be like that. We get to name it. And the darkness, call it the darkness, in us, around us, wherever it exists, I think it gets a bad rap. I think if we just look at it on a surface thing, just as a surface aspect of our life and experience, sure, we can look at it and call it bad, call it negative, call it, I don't know, a lot of things. And we get fed a lot of stories by the media, by storytelling, by fiction. Every great story, right? Every great epic story that I've ever read, and I imagine it's true for many of you, the hero and their crew go through this dark period, right? In the story, right? Go back all the way to what? Prometheus? And we go through this story and we go through this dark and we come out on we come out on the other side all the better for it. Right? And isn't that true? If you look at your own life, I look at my life. I don't learn a whole lot from the easy stuff, typically. It's the hard stuff that gets my attention. And I'm really working at changing that pattern. I don't want it to have to be hard anymore to get the big ideas, right? To get the big insights, to get the light bulb to go off. I don't need it anymore. I'm drawing the line today. Up until now, my experience has been that it's the hard stuff that teaches me the most. So I'm affirming that for me and for all of you, if you care to partake. Okay. And so that leads me to the first quote this morning from Anne Lamott. Hope begins in the dark. The stubborn hope that if you just show up and try to do the right thing, the dawn will come. You wait and watch and work. You don't give up. Hope begins in the dark. You've heard me talk about it. I think I've mentioned it here before. My whole idea about how my time in the dark tends to be a planting time, right? My time in the dark is a time of introspection. It's a time of looking at who I am, who I've been, and what I want to be, or what I want to become more of. I get anxious, I get frustrated, I get tired, I get whatever. I just feel like I don't want to play. And so I go into my cave and I hide out and I go into my little cave time and I pound rocks and fuss and fume and say silly stuff to myself, pick on myself and tell myself how I'm not good enough. And then I turn it around eventually, right? I pull the candle out of my pocket and throw a little light on it and start the way back. And I start to tell myself news stories about how it's okay, that it's okay to have the rough times. It's okay to have the challenging times. It's okay to not feel like I'm enough because that's telling me that I have something to do. I have something to grow into. I have something to become, that I'm not finished yet. Right? I'm not complete. I'm still on the planet. There's still stuff to do. Like Victoria Papke told me 30 years ago. She looked at me and said, "Dear, you've not turned pink and ascended yet, so there's still stuff to do." And I went, okay, got it. Got it. I have things to do, and so do you. We all have stuff to do. I got this little spontaneous ad popped up. God bless the algorithms on computers anymore. This ad popped up on Facebook from the T-shirt. On the back of the T-shirt said, this one actually said one of my favorite sayings, but it was a reminder, and it fits today. It said that, where is it? Oh, that we are to grow through what we go through. How many of you heard that before? We are to grow through what we go through. There are challenges. When we're faced with a challenge, it's time to grow. It's time to learn. It's time to step up, and maybe we're called to do something different. Maybe we're called to shine a light somewhere we've never shown a light before. What do we get to do? What do I get to do today? What change do I get to make? What influence do I get to exert? What part of my experience maybe can I bring forward to share with somebody else? Because like we talk about a lot, we're here together. We're not here by ourselves. Right? And maybe something out of my experience, maybe something out of my passage through the dark and the things that I've learned, it's time for me to share with somebody else along the way. I know I find that to be true. Not just because of what I do, but just because I'm a person. Because I'm a human being on the earth. And who knows? It could be the person at the drive-thru in Starbucks is handing me my drink. That I had a long conversation with one a couple days ago. And they had the little tip jars were next to each other. How sometimes they put two, or maybe you don't know. Sometimes they'll put two and it'll be a vote. It's a little gimmick they use to get tips. And it's kind of fun. So there were two different choices. One was Lord of the Rings and one was Harry Potter. So it was a vote. You got to vote with your tip. And I looked at that and I said, that is just not fair at all. I said, there's a generational thing going on here. And we had a 5-minute conversation. There's nobody behind me. We had this 5-minute conversation about the pros and cons of Lord of the Rings versus Harry Potter. Talk about epic stories. Right? How many more times could they go through the dark in those stories and come out on the other side enlightened, enlivened, learning something new each and every time? And that is what makes the stories work. That's what makes my story work. It makes your story work. I have a good friend who recently released a book about his own childhood trauma and how he's passed through that. I think I shared about it a couple of weeks ago. It came out when it was released and hit bestseller right away. Because he has decided that it is worth his while to do his healing work, share his story, and use that to encourage others, to leverage the learning and the growth, to not let the pain and the suffering of his past hold him back anymore. He's decided to use that as a springboard to move his life forward and to serve the lives of others who have gone through similar things. He's decided to use that story, his story, in service of the larger human community. Courageous thing. Courageous thing. Marie Curie says this: nothing in life is to be feared. It is only to be understood. Now is the time to understand more so that we may fear less. So that we may fear less. Just like my friend Walt, telling his story now. He's walked through the fear. How many times have we walked through our own fears only to come through on the other side and say, you know what? It's okay, I'm still here. Right? How many times have we walked through fear and pain in our own lives up until now, and we are still here today? You are still here today. I am still here today. We've made it through all that stuff. And there's still more to come. And when we allow ourselves to ground in the love and truth and joy that we know God is, Spirit is, life is in us, around us, and through us, responding to us moment to moment, day to day, breath by breath, saying yes to the content of our consciousness, saying yes to our commitment to living love and light and life and truth in our day-to-day existence, that helps, right? That helps because we know there is something greater around us, guiding us and directing us. And still, there's more to be done. Because I know when I shine the light and when I embrace the light, when I embrace a path of growth, there is constantly this balance going on, right? We have this balance between dark and light. And I talked about it in the beginning, we get to give that dark a name. We give the light a name. We always call light good. But what if we decided to name the dark good as well? I was in a conversation with a group of people earlier this week or earlier last week, and a young woman was part of our little gathering group. Her name is Jordan Salvato, and I want to give her credit. And it was too late to get a picture. I was going to have Joe throw a picture of her name up there, but it was too late. Jordan Salvato, just a brilliant young woman, and we were talking about Dark Night of the Soul, and so we were talking about the dark, and she it was her turn to talk, and she said, "Well, what if I can allow myself to fall in love with the darkness?" What if? Can you do that? Can we? You see, because there's no difference. It's just part. I mean, it's like positive. It's like the positive and negative poles of electricity. We need them both for electricity to work, right? We need them both to balance each other out. We need them both to complement each other. We need them both to be able to understand them both. It's two sides of the coin. It's two sides of this thing we call life. It's two aspects of who and what we are. Neither good nor bad, just is. Just is. And we get to name it for ourselves, for our own learning, for our own growth, for our own understanding. I get to look at myself and say, and I'm just going to speak for me, okay? I'm going to look at all those things that I look back in my life and think are questionable in character, questionable in behavior. Those times when maybe I've done things that hurt other people's feelings, right? Let's look at those and say, okay, I did all that. And what can I learn and grow from in that? Do I need to go back and do some work on that? Do I need to look at me and make some changes about how I behave? Do I need to learn to stop and breathe a little bit sometimes before I respond? Sure. Sometimes I get a little quick on the trigger. Even today, I had an incident this week. I got a little frustrated, said a couple of things that may have not quite been very artful. And so I had to go back and make an apology. And that's okay. The apology well received. And that's fine. I said, you know what? I had a bad day. I had a hard morning. I said some things that were not nice. Maybe got your feelings hurt, and I'm sorry about that. That's life. That's living, right? We make mistakes and we learn from them about how stop and think before I respond. Take a breath, stomp my feet. Right? And it's okay. I'm not perfect. And trust me, I try to be perfect. It's in my nature. I'm a first child. I admit to it. I have a real heavy perfectionist streak. And it's part of my karma, I guess. It's part of my life lesson is to learn to not be so hard on me. I see a lot of nodding heads, right? We are. I know a lot of people, a lot of people I hang around, right, are their own worst critics. Anybody else? All right. It's always a risk when you throw your hand up, say, anybody else? So how about embracing the dark? Right? I get to embrace those parts of me where I get to learn and grow, just like the little bat that we're going to look at right now. I am the darkness. How many of you seen? You've all seen this on Facebook. Come on, I'm not the only one. Really? All right. I am the darkness. Oh, you want cuddles? Okay, I give you cuddles, but I am still the darkness. Right? I'm still the darkness. It's so cute. All right. See, this is what we're talking. This is what I'm talking about. It's like we shifting our perspective about all this stuff. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of bad and ugly stuff that goes on out in the world. A lot. And in those situations, yeah, this is a toughie. It is a real toughie. What I want to do though is bring that home, because where we begin to change all that out there is right here. This I can manage. I can't fix all that stuff out there. What I can do is right here, is learning to shift my relationship with this stuff, right? With the little dark little bat in me, right? That all he wants to do is cuddle. But I think he's this great big monster bat, right? When in truth, it's just me. It's just me. And I just want to snuggle, right? I just want to snuggle and cuddle and love me and be okay with who I am day in and day out. Wake up with a smile on my face, go to bed with a smile on my face, trusting that it's okay, so that no little collection of voices is going to wake me up in the middle of the night with stuff to worry and fret about. Or the committee doesn't convene the second I put my head on the pillow. Right? That's the darkness. Don't need it to be like that. It doesn't have to be like that. I can hold it. I can have room for it. Right? I can have room for the pain, room for the tears, room for the sadness, room for the upset. I can have space for all that in me, and that's okay. I can simply look at it and say, you know what, you want a hug? I'll give you a hug. Because it's like having a conversation with me. It's like taking little 8, 9-year-old Lee, putting him in the chair and saying, what would you like to tell me about today? And if all you want is a hug, I'll give you a hug. If you want to tell me about how you're sad because you're feeling alone, I can do that too. I have room for all of that. Because in my experience, 98% of the stuff that I worry and fret about, that I get upset about, that I get sad about, is tied all the way back to stuff that happened long ago. Those are the triggers. And when I learn to make peace with inevitably the string or the chain of events that makes me sad, makes me upset, makes me mad, makes me feel unloved, makes me feel disconnected. And it shouldn't even say makes me feel. that triggers me into feeling disconnected, to feeling alone, feeling lost, feeling like I'm the only one going through all this stuff, I have traced them all back to stuff that happened long ago. And I'm doing the work still today, to get through it, to get better about it, to learn to love me more and celebrate me more, so that I can not just celebrate me and be present with me, but so I can celebrate all of you and be present with all of you, right? And share with you these insights, these things I've learned. So that maybe it can make you, maybe you walk away with something from here this morning that helps you live a better life today or tomorrow or the next day or the day after that. Because going forward, there is really there's no right path. There's your path, right? A lot of people out here in the world will say, hey, this is the way, and this is da 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 da, and you can turn right here, turn left here, do this affirmation, read this book, go to this class, take this workshop. This is the way for you. Nah, maybe not. I get to make the choices. You get to make the choices about the path forward for you, one that lights you up, one that brings you joy, one that brings you a sense of peace, one that brings a sense of lightness to those dark places. St. Augustine said this years and years and years and years ago. O Holy Spirit, descend plentifully into my heart, enlighten the dark corners of this neglected dwelling, and scatter there thy cheerful beams. I love the way he writes. Enlighten the dark corners of this neglected dwelling. Sometimes it gets like that. Sometimes it feels like that, right? When our cup starts feeling a little empty, when we're not taking the time to refill our own well, to take care of us, it can feel like that. So going forward, taking time for you, taking time to celebrate light and life and joy and peace in you, and being willing to love and embrace, right, the darkness, cuddle with the darkness from time to time. Invite it in because it is your friend. It is our friend. Because in it is contained wisdom. In it are contained things that we could learn and grow from. In it are the seeds of greatness that we have planted long ago, that given just a little bit of light, a little bit of attention, a little bit of love, will sprout and grow into something magnificent as each and every one of you. So let's talk about practicing the principles this week. I have one assignment, just one. Boom. I have an affirmation challenge, 7 days, 100 times a day. Oh, come on, it's easy, it's short. It's only 4 lines. Love in me as me is me, light in me as me is me, life in me as me is me, all is well and life is good. This is about filling the well every day, right? Bringing a little light, 100 times a day. It's really easy. You don't even have to say it loud. Go, love in me as me is me. Right? As you're driving down the freeway. Love in me as, write it down on a Post-it, put it on the inside of your windshield up in the corner. You can say it while you're driving down the road. There you go. That is the assignment for this week. So let's close. Let's take this all inside real fast. Not real fast. Let's take this all inside. Take a deep breath with me. We'll ground this, pray this into being, pray this into something new going forward for this week, each and every one of us. And we begin today with gratitude. Gratitude for the awareness, the knowingness deep within us right here and right now that all is well, that life is good and very good as each and every one of us. We recognize that God is all there is, a light and life and peace and power in which we live and move and have our being, and it in us right here, right now, with every breath, every thought, every word. It is manifest in our lives. And so I speak this word for each and every one of us, for myself, anybody with a request in their minds and hearts today, just bring it forward now, today, or later on. Somebody watching later on replays. Bring it forward and know right now that all is well, that life is good and very good, that this request is known within the mind and heart of God and is already fulfilled because the answer is in the request. The fulfillment is in the prayer, in the asking. We know it is already done. That each and every one is whole, complete, and perfect in each and every way. That health and wholeness and prosperity are the truth of our being, of our lives right here and right now. We celebrate life and love and truth as it expresses in, through, around, and as each and every one. I know this is true. I celebrate. I'm so grateful for it right now. And so for each and every one here, and all those in our community, in our country, in our world, I know the light of love and truth shines forth right here and now. And with joy in our hearts and in our minds, we let it be so. And so it is.